Have you ever wondered what happens to all of your storage? I've noticed personally that when using these Apple products, constantly I'm alerted by that notification that's up in that corner saying your disk is almost full. And I go to the little storage section and I look to see, okay, what exactly is taking up so much space? And usually I'm like, okay, I guess that makes sense, whatever. But I feel like even with my Windows machines that have the same capacity when they do, I'm not running out of space as quickly. And this is just a screenshot, so I can't click on everything to show. But yeah, you can see that I do have quite a bit of stuff stored on this machine, and it is about time to start getting rid of it. But the other day, I did notice something. When I downloaded a file on my Windows computer, I just happened to be paying attention to the file size as it was downloading. And then when I copied it over to my Mac, I noticed that the file size was now different. So here, what we have, and I do apologize, it's a bit convoluted. There's a lot of information going on the screen, but all I did was download the same file on multiple platforms. So up in this top left corner, I've downloaded the file and it's coming in at 5.04 gigabytes. And this platform up here was iOS. I was using my iPhone. Right beneath it, another Apple product using the Mac, same file, also coming in at 5.04 gigabytes. That makes sense. They're both Apple products. Right here in the middle, the top, coming in at 4.7 gigabytes is that same file, but I'm using a Linux desktop. And it's coming in again at 4.7 gigabytes. Right beneath it, I'm using Windows to download this particular file, and it comes in again, 4.7 gigabytes. And lastly, over here on the right, I'm actually using an Android device to download the file, and it's coming in at 4,804 megabytes, which is a little larger than 4.7 gigabytes. So very, very close. So 3 of them in terms of file size, very, very similar. 2 of them are a little different, but they match in file size because they are both Apple products. And when I saw this the other day, I said, wow, that is really interesting. Why is that the case? And before we get into a little more of the specifics, let's come here. And what we have, and I'm going to delete all this when I'm done with it, but what we have is a virtual machine on the left side running Windows, and on the right side, it's just the Mac OS desktop. And I have another file, relatively large, a little over 6 gigabytes in size, copied a bunch of times. And I wanted to show once again that even when running Windows on Mac OS in a virtual machine, there still are going to be some differences. So over here on the Mac desktop, let's take that one file. Let's get some info about it. And for this one particular file, it's saying that it's coming in at 6.71 gigabytes. Okay, not a bad file size, not too large. But over here on the right side, we can already see that we have one of the files selected, and it's coming in at 6.24 gigabytes. So same file size, but when it's downloaded in Mac OS, it comes in at about half a gigabyte larger. And again, I'm just like, okay, this is interesting. This is weird. I don't like it. And we'll discuss that more in a little bit. But now we do have to go to definitions. Well, what is a gigabyte? What is a megabyte? What is a kilobyte? And of course, on paper, yes, a lot of people can just say, oh, a kilobyte is 1,000 bytes. A megabyte is 1,000,000 bytes. A gigabyte is 1,000,000,000 bytes. And a terabyte, of course, would then be 1,000,000,000,000 bytes. And, on paper, that kind of is what you would expect. But at the same time, and my understanding is that because of binary and the way that the computer actually operates, things really need to be in multiples of 2, not multiples of 10. Even though the metric system is one thing, they don't necessarily always match up the way that they're supposed to. So other things needed to be created. And here, yes, I just Googled it and you can read what's on the screen right there. And it's essentially, we have a gigabyte and then we have a gigabyte. And gigabytes right there, it shows one gigabyte is roughly 1.074 gigabytes. And you come over here, yes, similar to what I was saying before, just looking at multiples of 10 more so than anything else. But it says it's about a million bytes. So a megabyte is about a million bytes. A kilobyte is about 1,000 bytes. So not exactly, but about. And I think that's really important. And if you come down, and I know I went out of order right there, but a gigabyte is about a billion bytes. Not exactly a billion bytes, though. And it doesn't specifically say anything about a terabyte. Oh, yeah, it does. 1 terabyte is about 1,000 gigabytes, or roughly a trillion bytes. And those estimates are because, one, it's easier for us just to say things in powers of 10, but this website is letting us know it's not exactly that, but it is close to it. And it's for the sake of us just being able to say things more easily, yeah, we'll just use powers of 10. Similar thing on Reddit, where, and it's not like Reddit is, the end all be all, whatever. But yeah, I think it's valuable information where we have individuals talking about 1,024. And that number is pretty important because it's not exactly 1,000, but it is a power of 2. So it makes sense for that to be how things, when it comes to the computing realm, actually operate in powers of 2. And again, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff, but yes, 10 to the 2 is 1,024. Okay, and yeah, you can read this right now if you want, and they're kind of saying both things have happened, where you have the powers of 10, but also the powers of 2. But when it comes to the OEMs, so the big guys, Dell, HP, Lenovo, so forth and so forth, they aren't Microsoft, so they're not the ones that are formatting the drives. They're not creating the drives. They are just expressing, hey, when you buy something from us, this is what you should expect. So here, when you go to their website, this is Dell's website, and if you click on the little link to how much storage do I need, and it says we measure storage in gigabytes or terabytes. A terabyte is 1,024 gigabytes, okay? And again, there it is, that additional 24 gigabytes is important. And of course, it branches down where 1 gigabyte is 1,024 megabytes, and so forth, going down the stack. But again, 1,024 gigabytes. Come over to Lenovo's website. They essentially say the same thing, that in terms of smaller units, a gigabyte is equal to 1,024 megabytes. So again, it's not that even power of 10, it's that power of 2. But who has to be different? Okay? Who has to be different? And I didn't take the time to go to HP's website or Acer or Asus or whatever. But those two are both talking about 1,024. But of course, when we come to Apple's website, they're like, no, powers of 10. All right. 1 gigabyte is a billion bytes. Exactly. 1 terabyte is a trillion bytes. Exactly. And of course, once you format the drives, you actually end up with less. So I just wanted to interject while I'm going through and editing this video. But as we're talking about 512 gigabytes of storage or a terabyte of storage, I wanted to point out, and it just dawned on me, that based on Apple's own definition of what a terabyte is, when you go from 512 gigabytes to a terabyte of storage, you're actually not doubling your storage. Doubling would be 1,024 gigabytes, but Apple is letting you know that a terabyte is only 1,000 gigabytes. So as the video goes on, you'll see why that's pretty important. But you're getting gypped. So you're getting gypped in more ways than one. And it might only be 24 gigabytes, but that 24 gigabytes can make a difference. So my understanding of what's happening is that because the definition of gigabyte and terabytes, but let's just talk about gigabytes, because Apple defines gigabyte differently than, let's just say, the Windows realm, a file will appear to be larger on an Apple product than on a non-Apple product. And that now includes Windows, Linux, and Android. And I think my biggest issue is, okay, You can define it however you want to define it. But what I'm talking to you right now on a MacBook, what can't I do on this MacBook now? I mean, in the past, for some of them, yeah, you could, but right now, what can't I do? I can't upgrade the storage. So technically, even though it might say 512 or 500 gigabytes, or whatever the actual storage amount is, 1 terabyte, you're actually getting less than if you were to get that same terabyte of storage on a Windows machine or on your Galaxy S23 or whatever other smartphones might allow you to actually get a terabyte of storage. Same thing for the iPhone, though, that yes, I believe with some of the Pro devices, you can get a terabyte of storage, but what can't you do? And I know all Android phones don't allow you to do it anymore, but you can't expand the storage on any Apple products. The SD card, I know, is slowly going away in terms of phone usage, but yeah. What am I saying though? And I know, yeah, when I get on these little rants, I just kind of go in a circle. Apple defines gigabyte, terabyte differently. It's a smaller metric for them. So therefore, the files that you download on any of those platforms will appear to be bigger and therefore take up more space than its Windows or Android counterpart. So what can you do though? If you can't upgrade the storage, you can do like what I always do. I'm just constantly deleting files. Or you can rely on the cloud, which plenty of people do. I use Google Drive or Google Photos. I know some people use iCloud, iCloud Plus. I know people who use both. I know people who have multiple accounts for their Google Drive, so that way they can essentially get more storage. And if we come over to our first option here, we still have to now think about, okay, we have Google Drive. And just, spoiler alert, your free Google Drive comes with 15 gigabytes of storage, which 15 gigs isn't bad. It's not a lot, but it's not bad. 15 gigs you get just for free. And when you are backing up your stuff, you have the option to back up your photos in original quality, storage stable, or express. I know that some of those terms aren't necessarily used anymore, but essentially what it is it's either you can take this stunning photo or this video or whatever, and you can back it up in the exact quality that you recorded it, or you can say, hey, Google, compress this some for me to save some of my space. So that way my videos and photos don't immediately consume all of my 15 gigabytes worth of storage. So that's good, giving you the option to say, hey, I'm okay consuming storage faster, or let me compress some of this, lose some of the quality, but then I'm also able to essentially get more for my money. And in the case of the 15 gigabyte version, it's free. So it makes sense though, right? And you can go to Google's website here to get more information if you like. But then if you come over to iCloud, first of all, and I'll show this on the next screen, but first of all, the free tier, and it says it right here, the free tier is only 5 gigabytes of storage. So a third of what you get compared to Google. You scroll down, and of course, it's make sure you have enough storage. All right, and looking down a little further, under turn on optimization or turn on optimized storage, iCloud Photos keeps all of your photos and videos in their original high-resolution version. To save storage on your device, you can turn on optimized storage. So what is that saying? You take these stunning photos, and to my knowledge, and maybe it's there, it doesn't appear that you have the option to adjust the quality of the photos or the videos when you upload them to iCloud. So they're going to then consume more space in your backup. And remember, you already start off with a third of what you get with Google's offering. So now you're going to run out of that third more quickly, not only because it's smaller than 15, but because the file sizes themselves are also larger. Then my guess, based off of what we're seeing here with stuff locally, that a gigabyte is smaller for Apple than it is for Google. So you're getting hit almost 3 times right there in terms of, boom, it's a third of the space. The photos and videos are higher quality and it doesn't look like you can change it. And by definition, a gigabyte is going to be smaller for Apple than it is for Google. So that's 3 hits right there on your cloud storage. So you're going to consume it a lot faster. Now, it looks like you can optimize stuff locally, but yeah, I'm not seeing anything to actually optimize anything when it's up in the cloud. And here, of course, Google and Apple both have their different pricing tiers. So you have iCloud Plus, and that comes with a bunch of different things more than just storage. And 99 cents isn't bad. Okay, $1 a month, you get 50 gigs. You can't really complain. But remember all of those hits that you'll take when it comes to storing stuff and backing things up. But you get a bunch of other stuff. Okay, same thing with Google. They have their various options. And yeah, it's not that expensive. 100 gigs for $2. And that's roughly twice what Apple is charging. So $99, 99 cents for 50, $2 would be 100. But looks like things are on sale right now. And then you have the option to pay monthly or annually. And I'm happy that they have these offerings. I really am. But I think the point of this entire video is just pay attention to your storage needs. Also consider other backup options. Most people don't have the time or sometimes the technical know-how or the capacity in terms of hardware to do it themselves locally. I know that I've always been a proponent of, okay, if you're going to back up your iPhone, which is more than 5 gigabytes, because iCloud backup is, it's more than just photos, use iTunes or music. I've never backed up my phone on a Mac, but I know on Windows, you can back up the whole phone locally to your computer. Is it possible that you could lose it? Yes, I know. But yeah, don't rely specifically on the cloud because as with any company, their job is to make money. And yeah, this is a good scheme almost for both companies to just continuously make money from you. But I will say this, clearly Apple is doing some things so that way you are forced to consume storage even more quickly and therefore feel the need to buy more of it. So to recap, and I know I'm way over here, Apple defines a megabyte, a gigabyte, and a terabyte differently than it appears the rest of the industry. By definition, those terms, in terms of storage amounts, quantities, are smaller than their counterparts. Therefore, a file that you download on both devices, on all your devices, will appear to be larger on your Apple product. You will then, therefore, consume space more quickly. What can't you do on this Mac? You can't upgrade your storage internally. So you have to make that storage decision at buy time. And if you run out of space, you can be like me and constantly deleting stuff, or you can start relying on the cloud. Again, when it comes to photos and videos, 3 hits that you take. All right, 3 hits. 1, you start up with 5 gigabytes worth of storage instead of 15. 2, when things are backed up, it doesn't look like you're given the option to compress those things. So they back up in full resolution, full quality. So they'll take up that 5 gigabytes even more quickly. And 3, remember, their definition of gigabyte is different than Google's or Microsoft's or anybody else's definition of gigabyte. So that 1 gigabyte is really smaller than 1 gigabyte worth of storage in, let's say, the Google Drive. So Apple.